Welcome to your daily dose of theological German, where a sentence a day keeps the dissertation detractors away. Whether you're here to keep your German fresh, prepare for an upcoming exam in a punishing degree program, or, well, whatever reason you may have, my name is Ambrose, and I hope you find this helpful. Today we're beginning work on a new article. It's called Where Does God Dwell? Old Testament Conceptions of the Presence of Yahweh using the example of the temple dedication prayer of 1 Kings 8. So it is good to have the title of an article because it gives you some sense of what discussion you're about to be reading, which is nice because when you go to look up words in the dictionary, unless you actually just already know many of the words, you're going to be looking up many words in the dictionary and you're going to get multiple senses, and you're not going to know which sense is the right sense if you don't know the context in which it's being used. And so often just knowing the basic idea of what the article is addressing, it's going to help you with that. And an example of that here is this word Adresse, which I apologize for butchering the German pronunciation. I'm not a native speaker, but I'll do my best. This is a cognate to the English word address, and in German, like in English, it typically just refers to a street address or a mailing address of some kind. But of course, semantically, you can extend that out to think about just the idea of a specific location that's specifiable. Which is really what you're going to need to think of when you're having a discussion about, the location of God's presence in the temple or how that all works. And so since you know that's what this article is kind of talking about, you're going to go with a translation more like location or something like that. So let's go ahead and start translating. There is kind of a practice that is sometimes encouraged where you try to look for the main verb first. I find the best way to actually find the main verb is just to start reading the sentence for two reasons. One, that's how Germans read it, and so you should just get into the habit of doing that. Two, because reading the sentence, if you do understand some of the initial words and are able to actually just start reading it, you will find that you can anticipate when the main verb is about to occur. And so even if it's not a word that you recognize immediately, it just is a lot easier to identify where that main verb is if you're already reading the sentence. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we have the question concerning the location of God. And here you'll see that there is this genitive ending on the word God here, and so that tells you that you're talking about the location of God. And then we get to the main verb here, and in its lexical form, it's going to be wohnt. Except what you want to always do as soon as you find the verb is just go down to the end of the clause or the sentence and make sure there's not a separable component, because if you were to just look up wohnt, you would possibly get a very different sense from what you will get if you look up the full verb herausfordern. And so you want to make sure that you are looking up the right verb, because in many cases the senses can be quite drastically altered by that separable prefix, and so you want to get the right one. When you look up this one, and I have an example here from the Cassell's German dictionary. Another one you may like to use is Collins. It's quite useful. Or whichever one you happen to find the easiest. They all have similar features to this, so this will just be helpful to you. You're going to, of course, find this huge entry with all of these other words that can also be used with the separable prefix, heraus. So you want to look down until you find your particular one. You're going to notice here that this VT tells you it's supposed to be a transitive verb, and it means to challenge or provoke or something like that. And so as you go back to the sentence here, you'll see that it, so we could just say challenges, let's just go with that to start with, to a theological answer. And that sort of sounds confusing. And what you actually might notice is that even though it says it's supposed to be a transitive verb, there's not technically an object here. There's no accusative case noun here serving as the object. And so the object appears to be elided, and you have this zu prepositional phrase. And so what's really going on here, and you will find this in some other dictionaries that give further examples, because you will find that you can challenge somebody to something. And so like you could challenge somebody to a duel, for example, or to a game of chess. So here it's challenging an elided object to a theological answer. And so in the end, you're probably not going to use a word like challenge. You're probably going to go with something more like provoke or demand. But the point is, it's a relatively strong, it's kind of emphatic sort of word. And you are going to translate this in the end something like the question concerning the location of God demands a theological answer.